Alright, so what I'm making today is my hot sauce bacon mac and cheese. So the ingredients for that are, I'm going to start with the roux ingredients. That's the base and the thickener for the cheese sauce. I'm going to use, and this is a half recipe. This will serve 1 to 2 people. If you want to do like an average size 3 to 4 person recipe, just double everything that I'm doing. But I'm using 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to use a cup of milk, and I'm going to use about a cup of shredded cheddar. And this is optional, but I like to throw a little bit of American in my mac and cheese as well, so I'm going to use like almost a 1/4 cup of American cheese, but you don't have to use that. You can just do the cup. I'm also going to be using about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and I'm going to be using about a 1/2 teaspoon of Valentina hot sauce. This is kind of like a hybrid, in my opinion, between a hot sauce and a taco sauce. It's got good flavor and it doesn't pack a whole lot of heat, but it's a hot sauce. So this is really just going to kind of accent the flavor of the mac and cheese. When you put a little bit of hot sauce in your mac and cheese, it adds just a faint amount of spice, but nothing overbearing, nothing rough at all. Um, and it brings out the flavors of the cheese. So it's a good ingredient just to add to your mac and cheese just in general. If you want some actual heat to your mac and cheese, you can add a couple tablespoons, or depending on the flavor of your hot sauce, just kind of use your own judgment on that. I've also got some bacon that I fried and crumbled, so I'm going to be putting that in the sauce mixture, and I'm going to save a little bit to top it with. And for my half batch, I've got about 4 ounces of pasta shells that I've boiled. So I'm going to get started on the roux, and I'm going to put the butter down first, and I'm going to let that melt. So what a roux does, it does 2 things. First of all, it'll thicken the sauce. So when you put your butter in there, you let it melt, and then you're going to put your flour in there, and you're going to let the flour cook into the butter, and you're going to stir it consistently. And this is only going to take a few minutes to do. Straight after that, you add your whole cup of milk, and then you kind of stir that consistency. You're going to be doing this on about medium low to medium heat. You just kind of want to watch your milk, make sure it doesn't start bubbling too much, because you don't want it to like get shocked and kind of curdle, but it can simmer and boil a little bit, so that's all right. And then that process of the roux thickening the milk will probably take about 5 minutes, and you'll notice when the milk becomes thick enough to put the cheese in. What the roux also does is it keeps the cheese mixture from kind of hardening. Once it goes to room temperature, it keeps it kind of a lovely cheese sauce no matter what temperature it's at. So that's why I like to use a roux for mac and cheese, because it just keeps it the regular consistency, and it doesn't harden and thicken up too much. So now that the butter's melted, I'm going to put in my flour. And like I said, I'm going to stir this consistently. You don't want the flour to burn to the bottom of the pan, you just want it to cook. And like I said, right now this is on about medium to medium low heat. And this is literally just taking a couple minutes. I'll show you real quick. I think. No, hold up. So this is what a roux looks like. And this is already pretty much ready to go to add the milk. Only takes a couple minutes. Back up there. Focus, maybe. Alright, so are you gonna focus, motherfucker? Whatever. Alright, so now I'm gonna add my milk. And I'm going to stir the roux into it. And you're going to see kind of the golden bits of the butter flour roux mixture throughout your milk when you first put it in, and then once those kind of start to dissolve and your milk thickens, you'll know it's ready. Again, it's on between medium and medium low, and this is going to go usually for about 5 minutes, usually not much longer than that. So I'm going to let this continue going, and then straight after it thickens up, I'm going to add all of my cheese in, and then I'm going to stir that around and let that melt in, and that becomes our cheese sauce. And then I'm going to add my seasonings, bacon, and hot sauce. So once the roux thickens up, I'll show you guys the next step. Alright, so my roux thickened up pretty quick. Since this is a half batch and there wasn't a whole lot of milk, it only took about 2 to 3 minutes. So what I did was I added in all my cheese, and I'm stirring it up, and it is almost melted through. Let's see if I can show you. Yeah. So that is getting to be a nice thick consistency for mac and cheese. It's almost all the way melted through. Stir this around a little bit, and when your roux thickens up, it's going to be like a gravy consistency. So once it gets to that consistency, and again, it'll get there pretty quick, especially if you're just doing a half batch, then you know you're ready to add your cheese. And this is a roux, and homemade mac and cheese is really easy to make. The only thing you really got to do is make sure you're cooking it on medium to medium low and stirring it constantly. But it comes together really quick, and the ingredients are pretty easy. Alright, so now the cheese is all melted. So I'm going to go ahead and add about a half a teaspoon of salt. Not too much, because cheese is already a little salty on its own. Just a quarter teaspoon of pepper. And then I'm going to add about a half teaspoon of Valentina. And again, this hot sauce isn't very hot, so if you're working with one that's a little bit hotter and you don't want a lot of spice, but you just kind of want to use the hot sauce to bring out the flavors, you may want to go with just like a quarter of a teaspoon. But this one's pretty mild, so. It smells great. Okay, I'm just going to try to bring it up here. That is what it looks like. That's the consistency you want in a mac and cheese. It's not super thick, but it's not very liquidy. It's going to adhere to the shells really nice. And it's going to stay creamy, like I said, because we use the roux. It's not going to harden up on you once it goes to room temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and add these shells in. Loosen them up. They were sitting in the colander for a sec. Add all those in. And oh, God, looks fucking great. I'm sorry, I don't get to eat this stuff very often, so it's kind of like porn to look at for me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Okay. I'm gonna try to stop having a problem now. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my burner off because I don't need the heat anymore. And then I'm gonna add most of my bacon. I'm going to use just a little bit to sprinkle on top to make it look pretty, but I'm more worried about tasting it anyway. Oh, can't really see it, but it's in there. It looks fantastic. Okay. Alright, I'm going to stop having a problem with myself now, and I'm going to go ahead and let this cool for just a second. I'm going to plate it, try it, and tell you guys what it tastes like. Alright, I'm excited to try this because I have not made it in a long time. Oh, and sorry. That is what she looks like. Again, there's bacon within it, bacon on top of it. Mostly a cheddar cheese base with a little bit of American. I like a little American with my cheddar and my mac and cheese just because I think it gives it a little extra tang instead of just a cheddar flavor. So I like a little bit of both. I want to eat it all. I just finished a 3-day fucking cleanse, so like I'm fiending, but I'm gonna be good. Gonna have one shell, one thing of bacon. That's the stuff. That's what's up. Excuse me. Like I said, the hot sauce, it just kind of brings out the cheese flavor a little bit more. And there's just a very little hint of the hot sauce flavor, but not so much the heat. When you use, like I said, I only used a half a teaspoon of this. If you're using a regular hot sauce, I would use a quarter. Or if you actually want to make it spicy and you're using like a standard hot sauce, I would use anywhere between a half a teaspoon and a couple teaspoons, just kind of whatever your heat tolerance or preferences. So this is really good. Like I said, the hot sauce just adds a little extra. I was excited to share this recipe with you guys or with whoever's watching, because mac and cheese is one of my favorite dishes, and hot sauce is just an easy tip to flavor it up and bring out those cheese flavors a little bit more. So again, super simple to make, came together super quick, not much ingredients at all, and this would go really well with some fried chicken, which I'm making a fried chicken video a little later, so I might post those around the same time. So if you found this interesting and you want to give it a try, the bacon complements the cheese very well. Hot sauce all goes great together, so if you try it, hope you enjoy.